But beforehand, though, if we get a big win, it's
at that point, right? as anal as I was, I just wanted to make sure we won the game, and it wasn't totally over at that point.
Oh, you were still had kneel downs going or something? You were anxious? There are a few instances of especially in college football, of coaches watching their team somehow blow a lead while soaked in Gatorade. They screw up the kneel down. There's
I didn't want to be that guy.
No, nobody wants to be that guy.
You look like you're trying to decipher your notes.
Yeah, he's trying to call the next play. That's great. That's awesome.
All right, let's get back to the Cowboys now. Fox Bet has Dallas as 7-point favorites over the Bills tomorrow. Many believing it's a must-win if Jason Garrett wants to keep his job. All right, Coach, how did the Cowboys get a win on Thanksgiving to save Jason Garrett's job?
Well, I went back last night and I watched the Dallas-New England game again, and there were a lot of, I know we're concentrating on coaching, but there were a lot of plays that players could have executed much better than they did. And it wasn't really a function of coaching at that point. It was a function of effort at different times. It's not like when the punt was blocked that they didn't have a blocker on Slater. He just didn't finish the block. So is that a function of coaching, or is that a function of that player finishing the play? Dak Prescott on his interception, throwing off his back foot, not really anticipating the undercut. And there were a lot of examples of that throughout the game. So I think that as much as we want to say he has to coach better, the players also have a responsibility to look at themselves and go out and execute the things they're being asked to execute at a higher level. And I say this all the time, to whom much is given, much is expected. And they have given a lot to their key players. They have invested significant amount of money into players that should be playing at a much higher level than they are right now, and they've got some accountability. But from a scheme perspective, it's making Josh Allen beat him throwing the ball. That to me is where it starts, is they've got to stop the run. They've got to stop him from being a runner and hurting him that way, and force him to beat him throwing the ball.
It's exactly the last point I want to expand on, because it's exactly right. And Josh Allen, to his credit, after being a turnover machine last year and at the beginning of this year, when the Bills played the Patriots, Josh Allen had three turnovers in that game, and he didn't even play the entire game because Matt Barkley came in that football game. But prior to last week, he had gone a month without turning the ball over. No picks, no fumbles. He had one turnover this past week. And so that is the easiest way to beat the Buffalo Bills, is get Josh Allen back into those bad tendencies. People talk about he has one of the strongest arms in football. It's absolutely true. And if you are in the first or second row, you might catch a souvenir football, because that strong arm is a wild arm that's throwing the ball all over the football field. But he can beat you with his legs. They can beat you with either of their running backs, whether it's Singletary or the ageless Frank Gore, one of your favorite players ever, who, by the way, I don't even know if we mentioned it, just passed Barry Sanders on the all-time rushing list, third all-time. And the Bills, if they know you're passing, they can attack. So do not, everyone wants to avoid third and long. You particularly need to against Buffalo. And I know Coach probably thinks I'm always critical of coaches. I think McDermott has done a tremendous job in Buffalo. I think they have gotten through 11 games all the juice out of the berry. Aside from tremendous job in Buffalo. I think they have gotten through 11 games all the juice out of the berry. Aside from not blocking Matthew Slater on one attempted punt against the Patriots in week 5, I think it was, whatever week it was, there's one win they've left on the table, maybe, that Patriot game, where maybe they could have beaten them 10-9 had they picked up Slater on that. Aside from that, they have done as well as they could do given their talent. But Dallas's talent is so much greater if they dedicate themselves to running Ezekiel Elliott, to not getting in long down and distance circumstances, and recognize that treat Josh Allen the way you would, as silly as it sounds, honestly, the way you would Lamar, which is if he's going to beat us with his arm, we're going to be in trouble, but we are not going to let him scramble for first downs. Then Dallas at home in a gotta-have-it game should be able to be successful.
You're right, and you would think that the coaching staff has learned over the last 2 weeks in particular, and Dak's been great, no question about it. But I think there are a lot of situations where they could have run the ball, should have run the ball, and they didn't. and they threw passes instead. Now, this week, get back to Zeke being the guy and run the ball, and then, you know, Dak play off him, and I think they'll be in good shape. Buffalo, I know their defense is very good, but I think they're the worst 8-win or 9-win team in the league. They haven't beaten a good team yet. Tennessee, they've beaten, but Tennessee was struggling when they played Buffalo. So if Jerry Jones was upset that you didn't beat New England in New England, I mean, he acted like they should have went in there and ransacked the Patriots. As upset as he was, he is going to be furious if they don't beat Buffalo on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I look at it. I don't think Dak has been great the last few weeks. I've seen a lot of throws that he should have made that he didn't make. And you look at the wide receivers, these guys are supposed to be a very talented group. They need to generate some plays as well. It's not all scheme. Scheme has a part of it, but you've got to be able to go out and execute what's being asked of you. And I haven't seen that on a consistent basis. And even screens. You would think that they'd be a good screen team, and the screens look sloppy against New England, and that gets frustrating. I give Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator of Buffalo, a lot of credit, and he could potentially be a candidate in Dallas at some point because of his pedigree, the things that he's done, and he's taken Josh Allen and changed him from a turnover machine to someone that's emerging and getting a little bit better.
And you mentioned to much who's given much is expected. Well, Amari Cooper hasn't been given the new contract yet, but he's certainly expecting one. Amari Cooper was erased by Stephon Gilmore. Absolutely. And I know Gilmore's the best in the league at what he does, but I thought Troy on the broadcast made a great point. He's like, man, when we had Michael against Deion, he's like, I had to trust Michael knowing he's not going to win them all. That Deion's going to win some, Michael's going to win some. And the reason I bring that up is Tre'Davious White, the corner in Buffalo, he might not be Stephon Gilmore, but man, he is damn close. And if I think they are going to look at the way the Patriots took away Amari Cooper with Stephon Gilmore and try to do the same thing with the corner Tre'Davious White against Amari Cooper in this game.
Well, my frustration, too, watching the game was Dallas was in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and New England was in a big safety defense. They put in a third safety, so it was borderline nickel defense, and Dallas couldn't run the ball as effectively as they should have against a smaller personnel group. That should have been a huge mismatch, especially when you've got Zeke. You've got to be able to not only have the scheme, but then go out and execute the scheme.
All right, Coach, stick around. We got more coming up. Is Tom Brady still deadly in year 20? That's what we'll discuss next on First Things First.
For which team?